Chapter 1. Lorelei. A palm clamped over my mouth as my eyes flew open, adjusting to the darkness of my room. "Quiet," Mother had whispered in my ear, the dream fading from my conscious thoughts. "They've come. You know what to do, baby." Her green eyes sparkled with unshed tears in the blackness of the room. We had practiced our routine many times over the years. I scrambled out of my bed, throwing off the covers as I wiped the remnants of sleep from my eyes. Reaching underneath the frame, I carefully pried open the hidden compartment that held the bag filled with essentials for leaving quickly. We always rotated the supplies every few months to keep them fresh: toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant, cash, documents, water bottles, and emergency food, all wrapped up in a discreet black backpack that was easy enough for me to carry. The bag was a vital part of the rooms throughout the places we lived in. "Hurry, Aya. I will hold them off. Hide in the closet." She took my cheeks in her hands and placed her forehead against mine. I watched as her eyes squeezed together tightly, the expression on her face hardened and determined. "Mom, we can escape together," I whispered, clinging to her wrist, willing her to follow me. This time felt different. Deep down inside, I knew that she would not be coming with me. My stomach rolled, and the anxiety I felt intensified as the smile on her face turned sad as she shook her head. "Go, baby." She pried my fingers from her arm and patted the top of my head to comfort me. "Now." Her tone turned insistent. Scrambling to my feet, I made my way across the room. I felt for the small catch that released the panel and scooted into my hiding place. Knees pressed against my chest as I worked to control my breathing by slowly counting to 10. The forces we were running from had superior hearing, and I would need to maintain almost perfect silence to preserve my hiding place.
"Morgana, my dear. How good it is to see you after all these years."
The deep voice dripped with malice. My hand covered my mouth to conceal the noise as men piled into my small room. "Andras, I see you are still working for Kristoff." Mom inched slowly along the wall, maneuvering herself into a better position to battle the foes she stood against. She had always made a point of hiding weapons throughout the house, but could access them quickly if needed.
"Where is the child, Morgana? We can spare all this bloodshed if you just hand her over to us now."
Andras examined his fingernails, boredom clouding his expression. His black eyes took in her movements, but either he did not consider them a threat, or he was calculating his own next move. "What child would that be?" She cocked her head in confusion, her voice smooth as silk and sweet as honey as she layered her compulsive powers deep within the tones. Andras sighed as he pulled a knife from the inside of his suit pocket.
"Don't play dumb with us, Morgana. The child that sleeps in this room, obviously."
He waved the silver-tipped knife around, pointing to fantasy posters and books littered throughout my personal space. I never decorated the rooms with much. When we had to move, it was typically sudden, and we couldn't take much with us. Every new flat, apartment, or house we stayed in, my mother made sure that I felt at home and welcome. She rebought me the same copies of my favorite books, made sure we had plenty of songs on our iPods, and I was well taken care of. The one thing I could not live without was my beloved violin, which Mother always made sure she grabbed during our mad dashes.
"Tisk, tisk, Morgana. You know better."
Andras taunted as he zipped across the room and grabbed her wrist just before she reached for the knife strapped under the desk. I clamped my palm over my mouth to stifle my whimper. Andras twisted my mother's arm behind her back at an awkward angle. Bones snapped, and a screech of pain reverberated in my enclosed space. I squeezed my eyes together, tears threatening to fall as I tried to block out the noises coming from the room. "Andras!" The full force of her voice hit me square in the chest. On the rare occasions that she would use her gift of compulsion, it was never to the full extent. The one word uttered from her mouth drew all the air out of the room, bending all of those within earshot to her will. Andres fell to his knees in front of her, his eyes spitting fire and hatred. "Drop all of your weapons." My eyes snapped open with surprise and saw as guns and knives hit the floor with her command. My skin crawled as the compulsion wrapped over me. As I grew older, we learned that her voice no longer worked on me. It left me physically sick and drained when she had tried using it, even when I was in the same room. The familiar knot in my stomach resurfaced, bile rising in my throat. I clawed at the skin of my arms, the painful sensation not ceasing. Sensing my discomfort, Mother eased up on the compulsion slightly. I let out the breath I was holding in, and my pulse slowed. It was just enough for Andres to regain control, and his fingers inched toward his knife. Glass shattered as I screamed, the knife piercing the flesh just above her belly. The sickening smile on Andres' face had me shaking in fear.
"Big mistake, little Nephilim."
His words were like acid in my ears as he twisted the handle of the knife. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth as she looked to my corner. "I love you, Aya." She mouthed the words. Aya. She always called me that. It meant moon in Egyptian, her native language. I was always the moon in the sky for her. Her eyes fell closed, and an eerie silence fell over the room. Faster than lightning, she pulled the knife from her belly and cleanly sliced across the throat of her attacker. Crimson blood arced in a brilliant spray, splattering across her face, which split into a smile. "You always underestimate me, vampire." Reaching under the desk beside her, she shuffled the special dagger in her palm before stabbing him cleanly in the chest. His skin turning an ashen color, Andras gasped before falling backward. Dust scattered as his body disintegrated. "Now, who's next?" Her wound forgotten, I watched in awe as my mother fought off the half-dozen other attackers in the room. The vampires hissed, their yellow fangs dripping with saliva as they charged toward us. The compulsion wearing off, allowing them to pick up their weapons to defend themselves again. Gunshots rang out as I was blinded by the flashes of light. Twirling her body around in a graceful circle, she dodged the attacks of one male as she ducked and caught her blades along the back of his knee, sending him to the ground with a grunt of pain. With a quick stab to the heart, he turned to ash as Andres did before she crouched to miss a katana sailing toward her neck. Rolling across the floor, she hopped to her feet behind a third man and snapped his neck. A long hiss of pain had her arching her back as a bullet pierced her shoulder. An evil laugh came from the lone female assassin in the room as she squeezed the trigger of the gun several more times. 2 more bullets connected, one in the thigh and another in her lower abdomen. A clicking sound signaled the end of the magazine. Movements began to slow as she took down another of the men with a knife to the back. Just the woman with the gun remained. Blood stained the carpet and was dripping down her body in a steady stream. I couldn't help the tears that leaked down my cheeks. "Just you and me now, Morgana," the woman taunted as she threw down her gun with a grunt of frustration. "Too bad you won't be around to see it when I hand your brat over to Kristoff. He will be so pleased with me." She puffed out her chest and licked her fangs. "Ashley, you will never lay a hand on her, much less hand her over to Kristoff." Mother laughed. I knew that laugh. It was the one that lulled you into a false sense of security. It calmed your nerves, slowed your heart, and controlled your emotions. I could see the look on Ashley's face began to falter. The hatred dropped slightly. Ashley lowered her guard for just enough time. With a powerful wrench between my mother's hands, Ashley's neck was broken and her spinal column severed. Vampires could be subdued for a small period by severing the connection to the brain. It was one of the first lessons I learned about supernatural fighting. It allowed you about a 10-minute window where you could either escape or fully sever their head. A garbled sound pulled my attention back to my mother, and I watched in horror as she fell to her knees, clutching at her wounds. Her hand reached out to me, her fingers coated in thick, red blood. Tearing at the wall, I scrambled to her side as she fell further backward to the ground beside my bed. I cried out as the sobs left my small body. My throat closed as I looked down at her. "Lorelei, you have to listen to me." She smiled at me, her thumb sweeping away the tears that ran down my cheeks. There was so much blood everywhere. I looked down at her, my lower lip trembling as I tried to control my sobbing. Red pooled around her from the many gunshots and the stab wounds. Her once bright auburn hair was matted to her head, sticky with blood. Her skin was waxy and pale, lips colorless and faded. Even I knew my mother was dying. No one would be able to survive those wounds, not even an immortal like her. "No one can find you, little Aya," she coughed, her voice weak as she tried to sit up. "You must stay hidden at all costs. You are precious and must be protected." This was not the first time she told me this. We were constantly moving, being chased by the bad men because they were after me, my abilities. Mother would never tell me exactly what it meant or what they wanted from me, but I knew it was bad. She had always tried to protect me from everything. "Morgana!" I heard a masculine shout and approaching heavy footsteps. "No," he uttered as he came into view. The man was frightening, well over 6 feet tall with an athletic build, olive skin, and long black hair. His aura was bright red and pulsing with anger, causing me to shudder with fear. It was another assassin. It had to be. I threw myself over my mother, screaming as I tried to protect her. I couldn't let anything else happen to her. "Angel, it's okay," she whispered softly. Reluctantly, I pulled away from her as the man approached us, and Morgana eyed him with a weary expression. The man's golden eyes glistened with unshed tears as he knelt beside her. Taking her hand in his, he laid it gently against his cheek. "I'm so sorry, sister. I was too late. My vision came minutes too late." He bowed his head in grief. An agonizing sound pulled deep from his throat as he threw his head back and roared his anguish. Mom smiled at him. The light in her eyes was beginning to fade. "We knew it would happen, Canul. We cannot beat our final fate." Her face contorted in pain, and a moan left her mouth. "You must watch over her now." More words were said in her native tongue. I had been trying to learn it, but it was a complicated, dead language that I could not grasp easily. The man, Canul, looked from my mother to me and back again. His expression was pained, tears now running freely down his face. He nodded. "I will take care of her, Morgana. You have my word, dear sister." He kissed her open palm and laid it on his chest, just over his heart. His voice was deep and raspy, the words forced from his throat. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed harshly, trying to compose himself as he clung to her pale fingers. "She can't remember any of this, Canul. Promise me you will make her forget. She must have a normal childhood, as normal as we can make it, with the mortals." I couldn't believe I was hearing these words leave her mouth. "No!" I shouted, denial clouding my judgment, causing me to act irrationally. "Mommy, no, you will be okay. He will not need to take care of me because you will be just fine." I shook her shoulder, not understanding what she was saying. She would not die. Mommy couldn't die. It is my time. She took my hand and placed it over her wrist. The Eye of Horus mocked me. Mommy had always said the Eye of Horus would protect us. It had not protected us now. I traced the black lines of the eye, standing out against paling skin. I felt both of their gazes on me. My teeth gnashed together as I tried to process what was happening. Trust your instincts. Listen to your heart. Don't forget your music. Her lips were cool over my fingers. It wouldn't be long now. Your father has to be so proud of the beautiful young woman you have become, my Aya, my moon. I will always love you. Keep flying, my angel. She took one last shuddering inhale as her eyelids fluttered closed. I felt the moment her heart stopped beating, the moment her spirit left her body. Heart aching with physical pain, I looked down and squeezed her hand one last time before placing it gently across her breast. My soul cried out, seeking retribution for the injustice I had suffered. I was only 13 years old. How was I supposed to live without my mother? She would never be there to hold me in her arms, braid my hair, sing me to sleep, play music with me. I would never hear her beautiful voice as she told me stories of growing up in Egypt among the pyramids. She would never be able to tell me about my father. My nails bit into the flesh of my palms, leaving perfect half-moon circle indents. I could hardly feel the pain as blood dripped down my fingers. I was utterly incapable of feeling anything at that moment. Kanul whispered softly in Egyptian. His words rushed as he said his final goodbyes to his sister. The pain was evident on his face. Lines were etched into the corners of his eyes. His brows furrowed in concentration and grief as he laid a final kiss on her forehead. Goodbye, Morgana. I barely heard the words. His voice was clouded with emotion and his accent thick on his tongue. It dawned on me that this was my uncle, and I had never met him before. My mother had hidden me away from the world, and apparently her own family too. My world was beginning to shatter around me. Kanul turned to me. His amber eyes sparked with flecks of gold as he took in my appearance. It was the first time I truly looked at him. He shared features with my mother, having the same full mouth and almond-shaped eyes. While his skin was darker, his a much richer mocha brown compared to her olive tones. He had straight jet black hair reaching the tops of his ears and a classically handsome face with high cheekbones and thick black eyebrows. How I wished we could have met for the first time under better circumstances, Kishka, he whispered softly. He was still crouched next to her body and reached out a hand to touch my shoulder. Hissing, I pulled several feet away and wrapped my arms around myself. I don't know who you are. Go away. The compulsion in my voice bubbled up from within, my tones layered with a lyrical melody not unlike my mother's. Lorelei, your gifts will not work on me. I am immune. With grace, he rose to his feet. Your mother should have told you that. He had wide shoulders and an athletic body that rippled beneath cream-colored button-up shirt and black slacks. Both were covered in wrinkles, as if he had been wearing them for days. She didn't tell me about you at all, much less that you would be immune to my voice. My back hit the wall by the door. Blindly, I reached for the knob, trying to plot my escape as quickly as I could without him knowing. Kanul held his hands up as he took several more steps toward me. His voice was calm and controlled, his face peaceful as if a mask had dropped over his features. Lorelei, listen to me. You are in great danger. We have to move quickly before more of the Syndicate soldiers arrive. I don't know who you are. I'm not going anywhere with you. Please, Aya, you have to listen to me. His eyes softened as he reached out a hand for me. I hesitated, looking from the outstretched fingers to his face and back again. Black ink peeked out from the sleeve of his shirt. "Don't call me that," I whispered harshly, my eyes zeroed in on the tattoo, trying to make out the shape. It couldn't be what I was thinking it was it? The eye of Horus? He had the eye, and I could see it just like my mother's? Then he really was part of my family, and I should trust him, right? The pounding in my skull started to intensify as I tried to rationalize everything that was happening in the small room. My hands covered my face as I slid down the wall and landed with a soft thud on my behind. Canole crouched before me and took hold of my wrists.
Aya, we must go. I need to get you someplace safe.
His large hands held my small one, his skin dark against mine.
Please, little one.
I shook my head as my eyes sought my mother again. She just couldn't be dead. I had so many questions still.
Canole.
Goosebumps rose over my arms at the sound of the voice coming from downstairs. That voice. I knew that voice. Heavy footfalls indicated someone was trudging up the stairs. Canole sighed and shook his head.
I told him he shouldn't have come. He is making this more difficult and will put you in more danger. Damn it.
The door flew open, the handle embedding in the wood of the wall with the impact of the shove.
Where is she, Canole? Is Morgana?
His words stopped abruptly as he saw Morgana laying in a pool of her own blood, body rapidly cooling and skin paling.
Lorelei.
The strange man breathed and turned toward me. Red eyes with a center of black starburst stared back at me. His blonde hair was loose around a face that looked as if it was carved from marble. A whimper left my mouth as I recognized him as the man from my dreams. The pounding in my head grew worse, and I had to clamp my hands over my ears to try to stop the ache. "Make it stop!" I screamed. My eyes burned, and I lowered my head onto the tops of my knees.
Vincent, you shouldn't be here. You are making it worse. We need to get her out of here into safety. The words are starting to break down in your presence.
Canole bit out, anger making his words sound harsh. The man, Vincent, sighed, and I felt him as he crouched before me. My pulse slowed and the ache in my head dulled as his cool fingers traced along my cheek.
Thera,
he whispered reverently.
Listen to me. Open your eyes.
A gentle hand lifted my chin up as my eyelids fluttered open. Entranced, I couldn't look away as he began to speak.
You will forget Canole and I were here. Your mother died of cancer after a long battle. It devastates you that she died, but you know that you will be okay. Vincent!
Canole tried to interrupt, but was silenced with a deadly look from Vincent.
She loved you very much. There is no such thing as vampires, demons, or Nephilim. Your mother was not from the time of pharaohs and pyramids, but from Cairo. Canole is your uncle, but you have never met him because he lived in Egypt.
The pupils of his eyes contracted as he continued.
You are a beautiful, special young woman. There is nothing supernatural about this world. You must be careful with your voice. Never put any power into it. It can be dangerous.
Canole cleared his throat and shot Vincent a hard look. I blinked in confusion as my mind clouded. But Mama, she's a Wait. I paused, not knowing what I was talking about anymore. Who are you? Why is there blood on my hands? I looked down at my hands, trying to piece together the memories of the last few hours and coming up with nothing but empty thoughts.
Lorelei, it is okay. You were just playing with some paints. It isn't blood, Thera.
The man in front of me smiled. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place his face. Where was I? Why did my head hurt so much?
Lorelei, this is Canul, your uncle from Egypt. He is going to take you to your new home.
The voice was soothing. It made me feel at peace. My sadness returned as I thought of Mama. She had died yesterday of cancer. I was sad about it, but I knew that I would be okay. My uncle Canul would take care of me now. That's what Mama said.
Aya?
Uncle Canul held out his hand for me and I grasped it immediately. I tried to look past him as something caught my eye at the far end of the room, but he tugged me closer to his side. Mama called me that, I said innocently, my voice far away as I grasped at faded away memories.
That's right, Lorelei, she did. Aya means moon, and you were her moon.
The man was still kneeling before me as Canul gathered me into his arms. My head cocked to the side. Who are you, mister? He had such beautiful eyes. I felt like I was falling into them, drowning in their red and black depths.
No one, Thera. I am no one,
he whispered as he faded away right before my eyes.
You can listen to the rest of the book in the Tempt Romance audiobooks app, available on the App Store and Google Play. The link to the book is in the description. Discover even more bestsellers and exclusive stories updated weekly, only in Tempt Romance audiobooks.